How many of you guys work actively on the front end over here?
I should know.
Yeah.
Cool, awesome. I'm going to be talking about front end operations. This talk is all about once you write your code, it works on your machine. How do you get it to production, and there are various ways to do it. What are some of the ways that the industry does it in? I've tried to form some kind of structure around it. It's quite unstructured. Mostly JavaScript and browser world is like that. So me and Martin are going to talk a little about it. Martin's a software engineer at Habu. He does front end over there, and he's improved the CI times for Habu front end, which is top gallant. I guess you guys heard about repository naming last time. Yeah. Top gallant is another one. And what I'm going to talk about is the build tools and what exists and what is the framework like. But the twist over here is that I would like to hear what you guys do also. There's no one way to solve a problem. What I would try to do is talk about the problem and then like to hear how everyone in the Hive does it and what works, what doesn't work, what we wish would happen, but it doesn't happen right now. All right, that's your coffee, Sage.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like once the PR has been merged into master or main or development. What branch have you? How many of you guys do main as your branch that goes to production? Main or master? Let's see. What do other people use?
Yeah, so at Markup we have like one develop branch,
Okay.
and then we'll test a certain commit, and once that commit looks good, we'll tag it.
That way. And I think you guys, BoomJam has
No, we do mass and develop by default.
both. Okay, good flow. Awesome. So each of the boxes over here represents, I've tried to structure this out. Not all of this happens once code goes into master. For example, pre-build, code style consistency, or testing. A lot of people like to do it while they're doing the PR before it gets merged into main, and it makes sense. But there are other things like tonic over there, which we'll talk about a little. That makes sense once it is in main or your master branch. So the first one, actually, let's quickly play a game. How many logos can you identify with this? GitLab, that's right.
Lab circle CI.
Circle CI, we got that. Sorry, one at a time.
Sneak.
Sneak, yes.
Yeah.
That's dependable. Husky.
Oh,
Wait, what's the lightning bolt?
The lightning bolt is socket dev.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Webpack. Wait, where did I put Webpack? Yeah, right there. Cypress. RT. Has anyone used RTL? React Testing Library?
Yeah.
The octopus is that. Yeah. Enzyme. They released their testing library.
Wait, what's the others?
The octopus is a React testing library.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not from the boys or anything. Then the N is a tonic.ai. It helps you mock your production data for black box.
I think those Netscape navigator just reversed. Sorry.
You're carbon dating yourself.
Yeah.
That's the mock service generator. That's tool up. This one is white, snowpack. And then how many are over here? These are fairly common. The Docker, Kubernetes, Nginx, AWS, S3. And the CDNs are Fastly, CloudFront, Edgeo. And this one is full story, Datadog.
New Relic. Is that Tractate?
This one?
Is that Tractate?
No, it's Hotjar.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then this one is Rollbar. Ah, nice.
Who uses it?
Yeah, I think they have the best free service.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So basically, what happens is that once your code gets into master, usually there'll be some kind of a runner, your CI, that will kick off, help you orchestrate and kick off all of these steps. Uh, I've used Circle CI, and we have since migrated to GitHub Actions. Anyone here who uses GitLab or Circle CI or anything else?
Not now, but I used to be able to use Jenkins.
Jenkins. Oh yeah, I've used that. Yeah.
My experience was terrible, but that's because we were kind of tied to a really old version. It was hard for us to.
Yeah. Okay. GitHub Actions was really nice for us. We switched from Circle CI back at Habu. I think Circle CI became really expensive. They started blocking us out where when we would start raising PRs, and it was like, oh, you reached your quota for the month. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop developing for the rest of the month. Or move to GitHub Actions. And that's what we did.
Anyone using Bitbucket? Because we use that for a lot.
I've used it for personal projects actually. It works really well with Jira and the other Atlassian stuff. Yeah, I've tried integrating GitHub PRs with your Jira tickets. It's sometimes painful because not everyone follows the same pattern and whatnot for raising
I
a PR.
liked it a lot until I started using it.
Yeah.
Bitbucket had a good run because it was free private repos.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it was like free private repos.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's good.
I, at a previous company, I put while I was changing laptops, I put some secret files on Bitbucket private repo, and I forgot to take those files down. They had passwords to databases and whatnot, and then I switched my credit card too. So that repository became public, and a company rhyming with Salesforce called flagged it and said like, this is not good.
I'm just gonna add, for integrating GitHub Actions with Jira, we added a rule, for PR titles.
Right.
So your PR won't even check, unless you have the, like, your ticket.
Did you put that in GitHub?
It's a condition in GitHub Actions.
Oh, that's pretty neat. Oh, sweet. Actually, that's
So-
exactly what.
So, like, forces us to make a ticket for everything.
Yeah.
Or like, we'll say like, ticket 000.
Yeah.
Something random.
I think we had that.
Is everyone on Jira over here? Jira? Hello? We use Notion at Capstan. Yeah. And we do tickets on that. It's a good free service. Yeah. But yeah, I'll check that out. That sounds like a neat trick. I'll check it out. So once that's done, there's dependency management of some sort. You want to make sure every time you release your npm install runs. So this is different from your dev environment a little because you get patches or minor fixes on the production container, but you might not have it on develop container. And I think the community as such has gotten really good at semware and versioning it perfectly fine and testing it before releasing. Except one library called Synthetic Redux.
Oh, yeah. Who's the author?
I released a bug in production and I thought it was fixed, but it didn't. But I fixed it. It's fine now. So that sometimes causes some discrepancies between what you see on your local dev versus what your end users will see in production or on their mobile phones or their browsers. And I think Boomjam has a good way of doing this where Max, do you want to talk about your cycle where you have a PR that goes right up?
You want me to talk about this now?
Yeah.
Sure. So basically, what we're trying to be able to is to be able to manually test any because that allows on different browsers can be like we had some issues like an older version of Safari and everything, so you can open browser stack or whatnot and just put the URL that works. It also allows us to have we have some a manual tester in the team, and also product lead is testing a lot of manual. She likes to see stuff before we merge. And so what we're doing is every time a new PR is created, there are new commits on the PR, we run yarn build, we build a thing, we push this to Front S3. Platform that's going to point to that. So we have we call like boomtemp.dev, and we have the commit hash.boomtemp.s. Like ABC1, 2, 3, 4, boomtemp.dev. It's all HTTPS and gets all sharing around and like during development, be like, hey, I think I'm about to be done with this. Like as an engineer can write the code, test it, and then someone's going to start reviewing the code, or someone can actually review the feature. And so we can like parallelize those kind of like feature and be like, oh well, maybe we should change the code of this, or like retest it on a real device with that. Different and like something or something. So that really keeps us away. You're like, okay, when I'm going to merge this is going to really look like this. It's not going to be surprised what it seems like in DevOps. Like basically merging DevOps, we're like, yeah, we're done. We can move on to the next thing. So we're like, oh, it's merged DevOps. Let's go and test it on this. So they give us speed of peace of mind. Yeah, all that is automated when the PR is closed. All the distribution and all this is cleaned up, and we have like Noto clean up on the S3 bucket to remove those when they're too old.
Oh, nice. Well, what do you do to clean up the S3 buckets?
You can create an S3 bucket. You can have a policy to read files if they're older than X days. I think we can do them after like 60 days, like no PR should get them.
Yeah.
So we just have this bucket just for that.
Yeah.
And a domain just for that.
That's pretty neat, actually.
I'll say is, one of the people really useful. I would recommend it to anyone.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's set up. You can help.
Oh, yeah.
But as the end user, man, it's so useful.
Right. I mean, especially if you have a product team who want to see it before it goes to your users.
And the thing like creates like a link, so you can post back on the PR and like, hey, here's a link to the list comments. So it's tied to the comments. So if you for some reason you do like 3 comments, it's still building in parallel while you get 3 messages, 2 versions. But that's been really useful. Sometimes like you want to debug something and you're not able to do it locally, and you want to actually do it on the device. Like that's on a domain that code running. And so you can like starting to proxy on like localhost instance, like domain locally, or just have domain.
I guess one of the only drawbacks, which we had talked about once, is like that happens on every commit to the PR. So if you keep committing instead of just like committing locally and actually pushing it to GitHub, you're gonna have a ton of those instances. So that could. If you had a lot of people doing that, that could add to your expense for AWS. But
AWS is not a big deal. Like it's pretty cheap for that, and uses a lot of data units. So I think we have like a pattern.
Wow.
That's not that expensive.
That's not.
Like with the velocity and the value we're getting out of it.
And you could always make this part of the developer handbook where you have these good practices coming locally. Open PR.
So far, it's not big. I think if we're like a 50 people, I'll trigger them, or like if there's another one coming on, we like start the Bruce build something right now.
Yeah. What do you do about the data for boomjam.dev?
So this is just showing the static build, right? It's using the same on the back end. It's using the same API as the dev environment.
Got it.
So there's no difference there.
All right. So you have a whole dev.
Like main day apps and whatever, for the assets.
Cool. That's pretty neat. So that would actually be great to understand any differences that you would have on local versus production, what your users are going to see. It's a good staging place. What the socket.dev thing is there's this guy, Feroz, I can't pronounce his last name, Abdul Khalija, I think. What he does, what he started was a company which does supply chain management for your NPM dependencies. What it means is that in the past 3-4 years, we have all heard about a lot of rogue developers going rogue, someone adding an infinite loop in color.js, if you heard about it, because Amazon was using it for free and they didn't want Amazon to use it. That broke Amazon for a day. Uh, and all of these updates, and he did it in a manner that it would be a bug fix. It would be a firmware patch. So everyone who was using color.js would get it, and most libraries use it as a dependency of a dependency. Uh, then there was one library which all it did was write shift by 2 bits, and that one broke. That was way back in 2016. I think it took down Facebook, Instagram. It took down parts of Google for 4 hours, and I think large part of the internet was gone. Pinterest was down too, and all of that was just because someone lost the domain, same credit card expired, whatnot. They lost the domain. Someone else took the domain. They booted the library out. So ridiculous. But what socket.dev tries to do is the supply chain issues that you have, it tries to solve them. It tries to see that since everything is open source, what was the difference in the commits that were made between the two versions? Were there any sharp changes that were not expected? Like if suddenly there's code that tries to access the files or tries to access the operating system or the kernel, then it flags all of those things right at your PR or right when you're running this. So it's a pretty ambitious goal that they have, but I think they've got their first version of the product out that you can integrate with GitHub for free. I think even Bitbucket if you're using that. So I recommend everyone try that out, check it out. It's pretty neat. They do this, I think, every night where they run that operations and go through a list of your NPM repositories, make sure that everything is same-ish. I haven't seen anything getting flagged yet, and they have their roadmap, which is very public. Like, oh, by the end of this year, we're going to get to this place where we will talk about kernel changes and flag those things. So that's the dependency management thing and securities around that. Sneak and Dependabot, I think a lot of people might have been aware of. It raises pull requests directly to your repositories to make sure that you are up to date, especially critical vulnerabilities. How many of you guys do NPM audit on your local dev? Huh? Okay. Yeah, NPM audit will show you like how many vulnerabilities do you have in your package JSON.
Is that the new thing that they just rolled out for GitHub?
It's
Added
NPM added that, but yeah, GitHub has Dependabot that does something similar. NPM added that some time ago. It tells you like 3 of your vulnerabilities are major and 6 are minor, or they're warnings.
Yeah, because we were talking about that, and there was something that this week.
Almost always it's hard to fix this, but what happens is an issue gets created with that open source repository, and enough people upvote, developers spend time, and then they fix it. I think SAS module had a big one. It was the longest for 7 months for them to fix it, but almost always it gets fixed within a week. So that was a good add-on to have on your GitHub repositories, or even doing it locally if you do npm install regularly. The pre-built consistent code styling is all about making sure that developers who are working across, especially remotely, who can just get your code. I used to use editor config, but I think I've moved completely to ESLint now, and it makes sure that you have the same code format. The idea is that irrespective of the attrition, anyone should be able to look at the file and know that this was written by a team, not by an individual contributor. And that kind of is very important. There's more to it. We do code reviews, we do style checks. I don't have anything that is automated for how we should fetch data, how we should check for errors. A lot of people have different ways, like people use nullish operators instead of checking for if and stringer spinner. I'm curious if anyone has any standards around those.
Talking about checking if the data is there.
Yeah, like the code style, like the same way to do it across pages and flows.
Yeah, so we've talked about that a lot, whether to like early return null or return spinner, or I think we're definitely trying to return something right away because we don't want to have a dependency on a lot of optional chaining. You're talking about when we're
Right. Right.
we don't want to have a dependency on a bunch of for stuff that's coming from API, right?
Yeah.
So, talked a lot with Max about that. I think I told you that. That's Max's pet peeve was too much.
I don't, the question mark dot. Yeah, I don't like that either.
Like I think like that's half of the code we moved in last year.
Yeah.
Because it's like throwing stuff under the rug, right? It's like, oh, it doesn't work, then you add a question mark. And
Yeah.
in some cases it helps, but like it's just being abused. And
There's times when you know you can expect something to be undefined, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, when it's being used all the time for API calls.
Yes, I agree.
to go to code consistency and quality, like to write our own ESLint rules.
Right.
It's still like pretty early on, but like some things that we say, hey, that's how we're gonna do it. So we're experimenting a bit with like, hey, that's just not about like Airbnb or something. That's like that's stuff that we want to do.
Right.
And then you have to write your own ESLint rules. And that's been that's something we're testing now. Maybe the next summit we'll share more about it.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think people, they know you can write them, but they don't really think about the fact that there might be really specific things. Okay, so, oh, I can write a rule for that. Other people might not have come up with the whole.
That's true because I do configure the heck out of my ESLint too. Something as simple as like 2 lines after import and your actual code to something as deep as like make sure all the dependencies for your use effect are counted for.
Yeah, for instance, like we have a specific use case that we're using Amplify for our components a lot, and Max wrote some stuff specifically as this SX prop.
Yeah.
Where you put in styling. And so we wanted to determine what to put in SX and what to leave out as just, because some of the props are duplicated.
Yeah.
Like you can put it in SX as width, or you could have a width prop, something like that. So Max wrote some rules for that, just so we can keep it.
Oh, that's pretty neat actually. That's nice. Yeah, and I think a lot of people struggle. I've struggled with this consistently, like to make sure that it looks like the team code instead of just one person writing it a certain way, and then the person is distracted, someone else comes in, introduces a whole new way of doing things. Husky helps you do something like that with commit messages. So that is kind of important, where you can have commit messages formatted in a certain way. That commit messages with the GitHub labels for your PRs can help you automatically generate the change log. So there are 3 things that happen. If you have the right GitHub messages, if you follow firmware versioning in your code, and if you follow GitHub labels, it can actually take, there's a tool called changelog generator, of course. You run it, written in JavaScript, you run it, it generates this whole change log, like, hey, for this feature, these were the things. Or if you do feature chore, I do feature chore maintenance, it says like, these were the things that were generated, these were things that were changed, and all of that is pulled from the GitHub messages, commit messages. So Husky will help you do that, and all these other tools will help you do changelog. Does any team do changelog or publish their changelog? What changed from version to version?
Because we did that in a previous company I was in. Like a marketer would kind of use that to show the rest of the team what the developers should.
Right. Oh.
We have something similar, but we don't. It's more of like a product release. So whenever something is updated, we'll send it to Abu, and then for our client, but we don't show any like technical thing.
Yeah.
We just say this is the new feature that's added.
Right.
Yeah. We do that we use question merge. We have like one commit, like in the old branch, you have one commit for PR.
Exactly.
And so when we would be like, hey, we're going to deploy, like you have like 10 commits or 5, 7 commits, right? It's pretty clear what's going out.
Right.
Whereas if you were just merging, you have like hundreds of commits and like, okay, what is going on? So,
yeah, I added a dot after. Yeah. added a semicolon.
Right, so
Yeah,
basically in our, main, like, both the development and master branch, if you look at the history, it's just like clean history. And
Yeah.
very easy to read, so we don't do change log because it's super clear, but.
right.
I'm curious if anyone doesn't use squash merge, because like the last couple of companies have that.
Squash merge.
Yeah.
Yes, squash merge.
Especially
But I would think like most of the companies in the Hive are B2B, but you guys have a B2C product too. So there would be something that you send out to your end users that this changed or
Yes, yeah, so we have this communication, we build out, but like it's not just an engineering feature, right? It's kind of
Right.
like the stuff we roll out that they don't see, the stuff that we roll out is like what is something. So
Yeah.
we are like yes, we send out like every 2 weeks an update, but it's like a mix of marketing, products, and you kind of have to hype some things and you have to explain. So it's not really just
fair.
well, as engineers, right? They're like, hey,
Yeah.
we fixed bug this and we fixed that and that. We elevate that a bit.
Yeah.
But then like that's screenshots and all that. But that's like a mix of product management and marketing. But yeah, we do send those. But it's not like I wouldn't call that a change log because it's like the kind of update you get on like Jira and stuff like this, right? It's
Right.
not just a one list of stuff, right? It's like there's a bit of explanation and links with more details and stuff like this.
That's true actually. And before, like way back in 2015, I used to, when I was updating my apps on my phone, I'd look at the changes that were coming in, and they used to have all of those. Oh, we fixed the alert manager and whatnot. And then now it's just like bug fixes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many errors,
Yeah.
they just want to know that.
Fair. That's fair. Awesome. The next bit that usually accompanies that is running your tests. And I think most people agree on Cypress, Jest, RTL, or some version of those things. Are there other tools that anyone uses that are not listed here? Everyone is. Yeah.
Not currently. I've used other ones. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Nightwatch, which is actually not very common.
What is Nightwatch?
It's just a JavaScript framework. This was back when Cypress was really up. Cypress now is very good.
It's pretty good, yeah.
And Nate helped me lead a session on that.
Oh,
They're really
awesome.
good at that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
What does it just do?
Oh, Jest is
Oh, Jest. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Jest pretty good. The one that I added was Tonic that I stumbled across. What they do is they take your production data, the whole database, de-anonymize it. They have all these intelligence. It's a paid vendor, so that even when you're testing it, you can mimic user sessions or user flows. I think this would be helpful for manual QA. I haven't used it myself. I've seen other people use it. I don't know if anyone in the Hive would really benefit from it. But I'd be curious to see if anyone picks it up. Data has been always an issue with testing. Like everyone, phone number one, user two.
Yeah, dev versus product testing, it's in the past.
Right. Cool. The next step is the build. I think a lot of people default to React, and if you set it up with Create React app, you get the Create React scripts, which run Webpack internally. Anything after Webpack 4 is great. Bunch of new tools that have started coming up. White, Snowpack, Rollup. Has anyone? I know you, Ketch was starting to look at some of these things. Yeah. Do you like it? Is it?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, on our component library, we have just as it as a different thing. Just obviously we like it because it's spontaneous.
Yeah. So the big difference between White and Webpack is that
you need every time you need to bundle it.
Yeah.
Here it is like also because it's now importers commonly widely supported across browsers.
Yeah.
That part is taken
The
care of.
ES module.
Yeah, that right offloads to browser, so we don't have to bundle everything.
Right. I think it was May of 2022 when Firefox 60 came out, and they were the last one to. They're the one dragging their feet on it. Also, a lot of these were written in JavaScript before, and White started with Rust, right? Rust or Rust, I think. I'm pretty sure it's Rust.
Yeah, for production build, if you use the Go.
Yeah. Okay. And then you guys did a create React app, eject, and
We have just started, we haven't done anything. Create React app, our app, we haven't registered it, it's still on stage.
Actually, I was curious how many people are using CRA with React, manually doing a webpack.
CRA.
Big.
Yeah.
CRA.
For me, first time I used CRA, and
They've gotten pretty good at it.
yeah, older versions I was having. Yeah, it seems like every
Version 5
version.
onward. Yeah, version 5 is pretty good. You were telling me something about how they.
Yeah, there's like a lot of nice optimization they built into. For example, if you like have your images in the source folder, and you're importing them. Create React App build tool will basically like smaller than 10K. If so, it'll like
Great for caching. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
I was gonna mention too, like came across this library called Rescripts.
Uh-huh.
Basically lets you config like customize your webpack configuration without injecting.
Oh, really?
So
There was one more. Great.
Uh,
Like great. Something
yeah,
similar
I
to
know
the
you're
great as
right,
well.
but
Critter. I think it's called Critter. So like when I was building we have at Habu we have a JavaScript tag which goes on our client's page, and that one for not a React app, it's JavaScript. All it does is you have a bunch of files, you need to collate it into one. So we needed something very simple, some simple compression so that it would be work level 5 onwards. We use Webpack 4 onwards. So great. The build times were less than a second, which is pretty neat. We had about, it wasn't a big app either, it was like 30 files. That wasn't bad. But one of the biggest issues with build tools is that as your application goes, even the hot module reloading that happens on local dev, it becomes a little slow. That's why. Have you guys heard of unbundler or unbundling? It's like what they are trying to do is first it's written in Rust. It's written in Rust, so none of the JavaScript drawbacks. Plus, there is no need to build the whole application when you are doing it on local dev, because all browsers now support ESM, imports, exports. Firefox was the last one, May 2022, they got upgraded. So if you use that, if you come across those situations, which I think, did you guys have that issue? Yeah.
Byte kind of holds the.
Okay. What's the build time now like?
We have we're just trying out with our new UI component level. We know that we have integrated into.
So that one, unbundling is another one that I'm keeping an eye out for. Build big, and then
Can we take a bit on build?
Yes.
Surprisingly, we haven't talked about like NPM install versus Yarn versus others. Just want to share.
all right, let's. We're not going to start rolling up their sleeves now.
Yeah, our quick experience is, so we're using NPM start, and some of the code that we use as libraries, we basically point to a GitHub repo directory. Like we don't publish an NPM and all this, it's just like the link to GitHub, which is great for like iterative work on this library. And at some point NPM started to be super slow. Our build time, like NPM install was taking like 50 minutes. So we completely removed NPM from that, and we use Yarn, and that's like 2 minutes of pulling.
Oh, really?
So if you see your NPM install is taking a lot of time, during build time, locally, something, or new person coming in the team to do NPM installing, like, yeah, well, good, take coffee, come back. You should at least Yarn was like just, we removed that pain right away.
so if you read those articles that say, do we really need yarn? The answer is yes.
So do you know why was there such a big difference?
So it's just the ways, I mean, all the lookouts and trying to resolve all the dependencies, and somehow like the way they do TLS that they have was just broken at that time, and so we never looked back because for like a week everybody trying to do an npm install, our build was slow, like we can't wait for them to fix it, so we just replaced with Yarn, and it was faster than what we had before the entity sheet. Maybe in that special case, but like the way Yarn is building the file, like npm 7, the log file like twice the size. The package log file is insane. The Yarn log file is super small and all this. So it's just, we haven't seen like any problem, anything, just like faster. So I don't know why. So that's
That's
uh,
interesting. Yeah.
maybe NPM is trying to do too many things, like need to backwards compatible. I don't know, but Yarn was just like, it was an easy switch, and we say like, literally hours of work that week.
There was also some discussion around not using Node npm altogether, using things like Dino, which was again built from Go,
Yeah.
or new one was bun
Yeah,
bun
but
dot
the-
I think kind of keeping track of Dino with the mailing list for it, but yeah, I'm not sure. How many people are actually using
I haven't seen anyone
Bun
seriously
is
using
like
it
the
in
hot new
production.
thing, though. Yeah.
No, the hot new thing is bun.
Yeah, that's
You
what I'm saying.
blink for a
Bun is-
second and
Bun is
they
the
introduce
hot-
a new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's too early.
Yeah, I think it's still.
Yeah, but the graphs they were showing were insane. The build times with npm were like about 11 minutes. With them, it was like 3 minutes.
Like I would say, if you see on NPM, try Yarn. That might save you like 80%, but maybe just marginal improvement.
Right. Or so like the projects I've worked on, the npm install times are negligible. Like, and also like when building, we turn on the cache, so it's like the TTL is about 24 hours. So we assume that node modules are not going to go stale in 24 hours and it's going to be fine. So all our containers have the modules installed. That helps build time run faster and deploy the code on production. But I think the biggest problem for me is the Cypress tests. Uh, they take the longest to run.
Hope it's not the Cypress test, it's the JS storm. Maybe writing the JS. I don't know if you guys have test on the JS storm. It's really slow. I'm not sure is it because I read some articles say everything if you try to run or test on JS storm is slow. The actual test is running quite quick. I think the most of the time you spend is the initializations, set up the desktop, all the thing.
Is there people are still finding a workaround? Is there no workaround?
But at least the workaround I find not working. So before when we have the GitHub action, right?
Right.
So initially you run every time you have the pull request, you run tests, the test takes 20 minutes.
Right.
And that time we just bundle the unit test, integration test, and then test into one big time. And then I split it into different chunks, and then it took the time from 20 minutes down to 8 minutes, and then later we upgrade it with the CRA version, and then go back to 15 minutes, and then I just do more split.
Wait, how did it jump back to 15?
We upgrade the CRA versions from 3 to 4, I remember, and then the performance goes back to maybe 5. Maybe.
I mean, that might help.
Yeah, it might help. But later, when I do more, I separate the unit test, integration test, and then the Cypress test into in parallel.
Yeah.
Right now, the test time is still around 7 or 8 minutes. Not too bad, but not too good. Yeah, because I checked for the single test series, it takes 20 seconds to run. But when you check at the detail, the individual test case, maybe each one will just take 500 milliseconds. So you spend lots of time to tune.
Yeah, but the same issue on every test. Running the test takes 20 seconds, but as we're like billable time, we session like 6 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, this is insane.
They try to see, okay, there's some trick you can try and say something like, you can set your max worker to 2 or 4 depending on your machine. I try different variety, none of them works. And they also suggest you can try just running one single workers, no luck. So
Yeah.
still stuck on.
So we used to like I mean, to set the context, like we have come a long way. Like I remember back when I was at Yahoo, you raise a PR, it's like 30 minutes before you can even see what's wrong. 40 minutes, then you go fix it. Another, so it's one day for the whole change to go in, which might be very simple. So we have made a lot of progress, but given how quickly things build, it's not wrong to expect like 10 minutes we should be able to push our code to production if we wanted to. And one of the things that I think I consistently miss is the workers. When you multiply that, there's no easy way to send your tests directly to all of those. People think about it as one spec would go to one worker, but what is really missing is one whole user flow that would go to a worker, where the describe kind of gives you a test suite. It doesn't really describe the whole user workflow. Like, okay, you clicked on login, you logged in, you went to the dashboard, you tried to add things to a cart, and you checked out. That kind of a workflow, if it is left on a developer as an exercise, and if you don't do that and you don't have those workflows, you cannot give them to a different worker all the time, and you cannot parallelize these things. Uh, if you had something like that, it's not very far away to imagine that you could mark which are the most important flows for a certain change that you're making, and that can help you reduce the build time. But I think we're quite far from building something like that.
That's what we did. So when I was at Google, that's only for the code change. But you need like that only works at Google where they have only one repo for everything, all controls, everything built in house. You know, like there's no tool out there that's like, hey, well, that's just tether affected by this code without a lot of intelligence and knowledge about it. But otherwise, if you were to do the whole thing would be hours and hours.
Good old days. Actually, I'm going to run through the last bit. I'm a little out of time. There are two ways to deploy. One is if you use containers, you can have your static file, have an Nginx server, serve it, do the great stuff with reverse proxy. This is different from having static files on S3, which sometimes you can if you miss out on reverse proxy, then if you have microservices, it kind of becomes a little hard to do it without Nginx. So what we have done is we've used Docker, we deploy using Kubernetes and Nginx to serve. There seems to be a common pattern in the Hive too, I noticed. The last bit is having a CDN, have all your static assets over there. How many of you guys actually have a CDN for your static assets? I didn't want to pay for it
We use the
either.
CDN for the PR instances, as I mentioned, for the real life zone. Not yet. We didn't have any yet.
Yeah.
Here's the question, how many are planning?
It's an expense again.
Yeah.
You can install.
Yeah, as soon as you go like beyond the US, you kind of start to have those kind of issues.
Yeah, we do 3 pods, so one for each availability zone. And the last bit was telemetry, having logging, monitoring through all of the different stages. But all of this is so unstructured and when you go out and build it. I try to put it in one after the other, but it's rarely ever built like that except for the build and the deploy bit. So this is a meaty conversation. I think we can have more of these. We'll set up some session in the Hive since a lot of us are in San Francisco. We'll set up some virtual sessions so that we can talk about it. I'm going to pass the mic to you.
Oh. Well, it's over. But...
I mean, sir, Ethan actually did the thing. The one thing though is I will make it. I like the ability to do like the multiple deployments and staging. For us, we are the bottleneck now on feature deliverment, because now before, we didn't have any clients, ship it, who cares, we'll fix it, right? But now we're at staging where we would deploy each day. We would deploy like you had the emergency PR, we'll deploy today. Now we shifted to twice a week, which helps both stop the emails from coming in like, why is it broken? Because no one tested it and someone said they did. Da, 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 da. But I'm gonna run through this really fast. Actually, Ethan is the person that led this, and I had a bunch of stats and stuff like that, but he did it here. The problem that we had, it took forever, right? And this is just kind of something that happened. And the side effect is all of this stuff would happen. If there was like a fire or production and your thing's taking 20 minutes, someone's mad and you need to fix it unless you have a managed service, which I think we all do. GitHub Actions with how we solved it. This is as of yesterday, is kind of how all the things ran. Before, just imagine all of them summed together. And as it wouldn't, we wouldn't allow the developer to merge until those checks happen. Right? So these are kind of some things that happen, the times, how fast. And with it, it still takes 15, 20 minutes maybe for the entire process to happen. But if you have this bottleneck, everything's important at the beginning, and this is something I would maybe invest a little bit more if you were to run it back again, just because the time and for everything. For example, here, all of the units that we have using Jest. We have another one. Cypress was the hardest one for us because it was a little bit harder and we couldn't really separate it. But it just allowed us to be able to be a little bit more mobile in case we needed to, compared to before where, right, hey, come back in 20 minutes, the client's still yelling at us, figure it out. But I think you can do a really good job. But those are just kind of numbers if you're interested in how that works.
Yeah. Wish we could, what I just said about having users.
Oh.
Yeah. I think
Questions done? Great.
Sorry, guys, we mistimed this session.
Yeah, I
a
know,
little.
we're out of time, but real quick, go back to wish list again. What did you say?
So there are a couple of wish lists that most of us engineers have. One for me was the ability to version things, version your application easily. That follows through in Docker, GitHub, whatnot, and in your app. The second one was having the ability to have user flow based tests instead of the describes and leaving it as an exercise to the developer. Those were the two I had. Yeah.
And the last one, the whole reason for this is also to create like the front end superset community. There isn't a lot of us across multiple companies. We may have 2, 3, or 4, but I think collectively, like if we shared all these things, it sounds like we all have similar experiences. There's plenty of back-end Go developers across our hive.